First of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody who did show up today. We really appreciate everybody coming in for this event. We've been working pretty hard on this over the last few months, and it's something that when this kicked off a year ago that we wanted to do, our peer sports team here at the Reading Police Department wanted to do for the first responders here in the city of Reading, and the Shasta County. So we're coming up on the year anniversary of the Carr Fire. I wanted to do this event on the year anniversary of the Carr Fire because way back when this first kicked off, Danny Smetak reached out to the Santa Rosa Police Departments down there and asked them, you know, what problems did they have with their agencies right after the event that they went through. And one of the things that they said was having something for their officers and first responders 6 months and a year afterwards, because at this point in the game, the citizens and the people stop forgetting what we did for them and what you guys did for them and start to complain about what's going on and their house isn't built and things like that. And so it started to cause a problem for those first responders. And so this is something that we hope today what you get out of here is basically how to move on from here and go on to that next stage and not keep stuck right where we're at right now and just go forward with that. For that event that day, it was an 8 o'clock in the morning. I got a call early that morning by Captain Schuler and said, the fire is probably going to reach Reading, and I hope I need you to come into work. And it really just kicked off from there for about 2 weeks straight. That first day was a 27-hour day for a lot of us, and we just went straight through that. And a lot of things happened in that first 27 hours. And so not a lot of us knew how to deal with that, and not a lot of us knew how to process that. Sorry, I forgot to mention my name. My name's John Poletsky. I'm a lieutenant with the Reading Police Department. So I have been through a lot of events in my life as a police officer for over 20 years, from officer-involved shootings to major homicides, big investigations, all kinds of things. And this was by far the biggest event that I had to deal with in this kind of a capacity, something that I could not control no matter what. Usually in our line of work, if we get a whole bunch of us there, we're able to control it. There wasn't anything we could do. And so that was a big thing for us. So learning to work through that was, and to process that, move on, and continue on where we're at now is something that I wanted to make sure you guys are all in the same place that I was. Understand why I asked Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman to come here today and to help us move on from here. So our peer support team, real quick. After that, like I said, Danny Smetak reached out to Santa Rosa. We brought in Dan Willis after about 6 months, had him speak to us at an event at the City Hall. That was very helpful. And now I'm happy to introduce to you Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman.
Hey folks, I'm Dave. My background, I'm a son of a cop. My dad started the beat in Cheyenne, Wyoming, 1962. No academy. Wyatt Earp didn't have no stinking academy. I want you to think about this. It's a theme that I want to establish as a foundation here. It wasn't until the 1970s we began to send most cops to an academy. Think about that. For 200 years, we kind of gave a cop gun a badge and cut him loose. Yeah? Imagine we still did that. It's a theme I want you to understand. We have ever better technology, ever better training, ever better tactics, ever better equipment, just to say where we are. Yeah, I'm a reserve cop. I'm a prior service buck sergeant, paratrooper, Army Ranger, repeat offender author. My first book on killing, 500,000 copies sold worldwide, translated into 8 languages. Marine Corps Commandant's required reading in peace studies programs in Berkeley. How do you make Berkeley, the Marine Corps, happy with the same book? Huh? We just tell the truth. And the truth is we're all on the same side. We're all just trying to figure it out and see what we can do in the face of these tragic events that happen all around us. My next book is on combat. And it's really the important one for PTSD, physiology, aftermath. This is used in a lot of programs worldwide, issued in the DEA Academy, issued to the Marshals Academy, also Marine Corps Commandant's required reading. And it's the one book that I try to make sure we have enough of. You're going to get one book today, this would be the one. And we're going to spend almost all of the class working out of this book, The Psychology and Physiology of Combat. One of my more recent books is this Assassination Generation. We're not going to talk much about that today. With the video games and the media violence and what it's doing and the violence that's occurring and what's coming down the road. It's one of the best tools we have for that. Again, it's being used in a lot of psych and social welfare groups, and also used in military and law enforcement. But let's go back on killing real quick. And the whole sheepdog thing was out of On Combat, the sheep, the wolf, the sheepdog. We did the Sheepdog Kids book, and it's touching lives. And we just want to reach out to everybody across the spectrum with less division, and just understand that everybody has it in them to try to be the protector at that moment of truth. We don't want sheep, we don't want wolves. We're just trying to raise the little sheepdogs that are dedicated to protecting the flock and guiding us in safe paths in the years to come. And we go back to this book, and it's a foundation I'm going to skim through very quickly. But people point to some horrible mass murder, some terrible crime. That proves we're all killers. No, it's literally 1 in a million. You explain to me that 99.9% of our citizens who go a lifetime never kill, or even seriously attempt to. Explain that. Divorce, infidelity, layoff, traffic accidents, and less than 1 in 1,000 citizens in a lifetime will even seriously attempt to take a human life. Explain that. Inside most healthy members of our species is a pretty hardwired resistance against killing their own kind. Sociopaths don't have that resistance. Healthy people have to be trained to kill. We found out in World War II, most of the troops wouldn't pull the trigger. It was a training flaw. Taught them to shoot bullseyes. We have no known case any bullseyes ever attacking our troops. Yeah? If you've been in the armed forces since the Korean War, the man-shaped silhouette pops in a field of view. You hit the target, target drops, stimulus, response, stimulus, response. Like a pilot in a flight simulator, like a kid in a fire drill, modern training makes killing a conditioned response. And oh, by the way, the video games are doing the exact same thing to our kids worldwide. So I just need to understand that there's some dynamics in play out there, and a foundational concept I want you to wrap your mind around. If we had World War II level medical technology in Iraq today, we'd have 10 times as many dead American troops, yes? And the same thing is true in our streets. If we had Vietnam level medical technology in Afghanistan, we'd have at least 4 times many dead American troops, yes? And the same thing is true in our streets. Folks, the number of dead people completely underrepresent the problem. Now, a UMass Harvard study, irrefutable data, peer-reviewed journal, UMass Harvard, if we had 1970s technology, the murder rate would be at least 4 times what it is. I want you to wrap your mind around that. And this data is 20 years old. Folks, we got 500 murdered in Chicago last year. more like 2,000 if we had 1970s technology, and that data is 20 years old. How many of y'all carried tourniquets today? We'll talk later about tourniquets. How many carried tourniquets 10 years ago? Nah. One medical expert recently told me he believes tourniquets alone have cut the murder rate in half. Think about that. You slap a tourniquet on, you save a life, you prevented a murder. It is happening every day. The number of dead people underrepresent the problem. You with me on this? It's actually much, much worse than it looks. Now, the reason why that's important to us, the foundation of resiliency, is motivation. To know that your sacrifice is for a noble and worthy purpose. To understand how desperately the world needs what you have to give. All of our first responders and those who stand behind them. When you chose to be a first responder, a cop, fire, EMS, social work, psych, you gave up on the American dream of being stinking rich, at least not legally. Yeah? And you'll probably never grow famous. You'll never be a famous actor, a famous musician, a famous businessman. You'll never be famous, at least probably not in a good way. Yeah? You have chosen a life of sacrifice. And you must believe your sacrifice is for a noble and worthy purpose. You must understand how desperately the world needs what you have to give. And sometimes the greatest love is not to sacrifice your life, but to live a life of sacrifice. To place the wealth of others ahead of your own. To walk out the door every day of your life. to do a dirty, dangerous, thankless job to the utmost of your ability every day of your life, because you know, if nobody did it, our civilization would no longer exist. So just recognize the situation that it's far worse than it looks, and how desperately we need our sheepdogs. And we look at the Carr Fire, we look at the Camp Fire. How much worse would it have been if we'd fought that with 1950s technology? Huh? What if we fought those fires with 1900 technology? You understand? We throw technology, we throw money at the problem, and bad things happen. And human violence has exploded. And what that all means to all of us is how desperately the world needs what we have to give, and that our sacrifice is for a noble and worthy purpose. So folks, let's just study this toxic realm called combat, interpersonal human aggression. We're going to dive head on into this and understand how desperately the world needs what you have to give. Now, folks, I train cops in all 50 states. I believe I'm the only law enforcement trainer post-certified in all 50 states. I train every federal agency. I train all of our military, all of our Tier 1 Spec Ops, many foreign nations. But you know, I'm also, I've presented over 200 universities and colleges. I retired from the Army 22 years ago. I'm 62 years old. I've been on the road for 22 years, 300 days a year. Waiting at home for me is my bride of 43 years. This next month will be our 44th anniversary. She was my high school sweetheart. I had just turned 17. She was 15 when I proposed to her. We are from Arkansas. 2 years later, she married a crazy Army paratrooper, and she's been on this ride with me for 44 years, come next month. I love her more than life itself. But for my entire military career, I spent more time with her than I ever spent with them. Then I retired, and for the last 22 years, I'm on the road 300 days a year. You see, we have a deep sense of urgency. Things are bad all around. Our children, last year, was a record number of dead in our schools. Not a single kid had been killed by school fire in 60 years. But the children who give us terrible crimes as children will give us crimes as adults as they come through the pipeline, and bad things are coming down the road. We've got all kinds of dynamics coming together. And my wife and I, you see, the only thing on earth more precious than her is my grandchildren. And we believe as we love our children, as we love our grandchildren, as we love our nation, as we love our way of life, we've got to walk out that door and give 100%. It's my prayer that I can keep doing what I do for another 20 years. And every day that I have the health, every day that somebody wants what I got to give, I'm going to go out there and do the best I can to give it. You understand? And I want to lay the foundation right up front. It sustains us. Everything builds upon it. To know that your sacrifice is for a noble and worthy purpose. To believe in who you are and believe in what you do. And so, folks, when we study this toxic realm of interpersonal human aggression, I mean, the Carr Fire, the Camp Fire, they appear not to have been intentionally human-caused, but we're seeing a lot of them that are. San Diego's been driven crazy by an arsonist that was lighting fires all around the areas, an act of really domestic terrorism. Firefighters were sleeping in the trucks to be able to roll right out and be there as soon as possible with these terrible man-made crimes. It's bad enough when it's accidental. You add that dynamic of human beings committing these horrible crimes and setting these fires, and the dynamics change too. So when we talk about interpersonal human aggression, I need you to understand something here. Our story begins on Normandy Beach in World War II. A team of psychiatrists landed on Normandy Beach, and they studied what's happened to the troops in combat. Now, obviously, many dead, many wounded. Of those who are left, at the end of 60 days of inescapable day and night combat, 98% had become psychiatric casualties. They were literally driven crazy by combat. They were not broken for life. Give them a break. Most get their feet back on the ground. At least temporarily, those who were left after 60 days of inescapable day and night combat, they were literally driven crazy by combat. They were not destroyed for life, but their mind was the weak link. You know, my cops say, well, Dave, all that military stuff is interesting, but does it really apply to us? And that's a fair question. In the law enforcement community, every year, somewhere between 50 and 80 cops are murdered in the line of duty. Now, I need you to understand something. If it weren't for body armor, the number of dead cops would be double what it is. Take away body armor right off the top, and you double the number of dead cops. If we had 1970s level medical technology, that number would be at least 4 times what it is. Take away 2 of many, many factors. Take away body armor, take away technology, medical tech since 1970, the number of dead cops would be 8 times what it is. And this number would be more like 400 cops murdered. So folks, just recognize every year we have better tactics, better training, better technology. Every year. Folks, in 2011, a record number of U.S. Marshals were murdered in the line of duty. They slammed head-on in a new generation of gangbangers. The following year, no marshals were murdered. Stop. Record number of marshals murdered one year, no marshals murdered the next year. What happened? They completely transformed their tactics, their training, and their equipment, yeah? Just think about this. Fugitive apprehension task forces. Across America, in 2011, more U.S. Marshals murdered than the previous 10 years put together. Slammed head-on a new generation of gangbangers. But folks, they were taking down 2, 3, sometimes 4 bad guys a day, our fugitive apprehension task forces. We got a warrant, we got an address, we go get them, 2, 3, 4 a day. Now they take down 1 bad guy after 2 days of surveillance. You understand? They went from 2, 3, 4 a day to 1 every 2 days. And don't go in the predator's lair. Wait until he leaves the house. If he won't leave the house, wait until the lights go out. All they play video games till 2, 3 every night. Give it 1 more hour, and then tiptoe in the house. And you have to shake them to wake them up and arrest them. Yeah? That 1 in a million chance you're in the wrong house? Whoops, we're sorry. Go back to sleep. This was just a dream. Well, it's all better now. The number of dead marshals was down. No, it's not better. I need you to understand that every year we have better technology, better training, better tactics. All of that's important. The only good measure of the problem is what we call the year-over-year increase in cops murdered. The year-over-year increase in cops murdered. And 2016, remember 5 dead cops in Dallas, 4 dead cops in Baton Rouge? In every place you see a multiple homicide of cops, I'll show you 10 where they tried and failed. 2016 was the single worst year-over-year increase in cops murdered in the history of our nation. Gang crime and gang membership has exploded, and bad things are happening all over. But here's the key. How many cops murder themselves? Law enforcement suicides. Numbers all over the map. Actually reported to the feds about 100 a year. Everybody studying the topic agrees half of all agencies are not reporting. It's a voluntary report system. A more accurate number would probably be 200 a year. But there's some people out there say for every law enforcement suicide we report, there's one we hide. They say the number's like 450. Whatever the number is, every year we lose more cops to their own hand, and you can extrapolate that to all first responders. Every year, without a doubt, we lose more first responders to their own hand than we do to criminals. Do you understand? And folks, whether you're a soldier in combat or a first responder in these violent times, the weak link can be the mind, yes? So we're going to address that. We're going to tie that together with what I call the bulletproof mind, resiliency. And the first step in resiliency is motivation. I was a keynote speaker in the first Department of Defense-wide resiliency conference, the opening speaker of the second DoD-wide resiliency conference. Resiliency is a term for people who do not get PTSD. I'm going to work you through it. I'm going to give you a fair amount of info on PTSD today. And I don't want you to cop at a pity party. We'll catch the whole class. But I call PTSD the gift that keeps on giving, kind of like herpes. Look, if you die, that's not contagious. You lose a limb, your kids can't catch that. You come home with a load of emotional baggage, who has to live with it? It can echo down across a generation. Now, we're going to put it all in perspective here. Don't cop a pity party. But recognize that this PTSD can be the gift that keeps on giving. And our goal is resiliency. And that's what we call people who do not get PTSD, Holocaust survivors who walk out of Nazi death camps. Think about that. POWs that are horribly malnourished and tortured for years. And they walk out of the Nazi death camp, they walk out of the POW camp, and they do not have PTSD. Do you believe there's such people? It's a simple fact. We study them. I met one a while back. As a young pilot, he'd been shot down over in North Vietnam. Year after year, torture, malnutrition in North Vietnam without end in sight. He told me, he said, I walked out of that POW camp. I did not have PTSD, and most of us didn't. I said, sir, that's resiliency. That's what we study. What made that possible? Here's what he said. Every evil act the enemy inflicted upon us renewed our faith. We're on the right side in this war. Think about that. Every bad thing that happens in this world should renew your faith that the world needs what you have to give. What should we take away from the Carr Fire? What should we take away from the campfire? What should we take away from these violent times and these horrible mass murders? And folks, we've got to realize how badly the world needs what we have to give. So go back to Normandy Beach. 98%, at least temporarily, driven crazy by combat. What about the other 2%? What do you think? They were crazy when they got there. The World War II researchers lumped them together as aggressive sociopaths or psychopaths. But wait. It's more complex. And don't get hung up on specific numbers. The numbers can vary greatly. But let's call it 1% and 1%. It's an old Vietnam veteran, an old retired colonel, one sentence from him, and I've run with it ever since. He told me, he said, most people in our society are sheep. Most people are gentle creatures who only hurt each other by accident. Remember, the hard thing to explain is not that 1 in a million outlier. The hard thing to explain is the 99.9% will go a lifetime, never hurt anybody or even tried to, yes? Most people are just not wired for violence. And then there's a wolf. And the wolf will feed on the sheep without mercy. Are there wolves in the land? Are there people who will harm your loved ones without hesitation? Tell it to Sandy Hook Elementary School. Tell it to the Parkland School Massacre. Folks, the moment we try to pretend there's no bad stuff in this world, we're in denial. And denial turns us into sheep. Now, I'm a cop. When I'm home, I got my clothes on, I got a gun on. And the other day, I went to step out for a minute without my gun, stopped, said, went and got my gun. Yeah. It's denial. The bad man is not there. The bad man will never come. This is what's happening. You know, we do house of worship security team training nationwide. Before 9 people murdered in Charleston AME Church, before 26 people murdered in Texas Sutherland Springs Baptist Church, we've been teaching these classes. And there's always people say, well, don't you think God will protect you? Won't God protect you from fire? Why you need that fire exit sign? Why you need that fire extinguisher? Throw away that fire exit sign. Throw away that fire. Show us your faith. God will protect you. That's not how it works. You know darn well. God put you there to protect them. Do you understand? Emotionally and physically, psychologically and spiritually, to help them through these times. Do you understand? And so, folks, there are wolves in the land. And then the old boy said, there are sheepdogs. He says, I am a predator too, but I live to protect the flock. I live to protect the flock and confront the wolf. Now, if you have no propensity for violence, when the bad stuff comes down, you're going to have trouble with it. If you have a propensity for violence and absence of empathy, violence without empathy is a pretty good thumbnail definition of what? Sociopath, a psychopath, a wolf. But what if you had a propensity for violence and a love for the lambs? What if you spent a lifetime nurturing the capacity to confront violence and the desire to use it to protect the innocent and their hour of greatest need? Now what do you have? A sheepdog, a first responder, somebody who's dedicated themselves to going in harm's way, to be there for them at the hour of greatest need. Now here's why this model is important. Ultimately, these people are shattered by combat. These people are crazy when they got there. But these people able to survive and thrive in the heart of darkness. They're not psychopaths, they're not sociopaths, and they're not just led by combat. Whatever they got, we want it. If we're going to survive in this toxic realm and not bring home the gift that keeps on giving, whatever they got, we want it. And that's the first step is motivation. To know that you're sacrificed for a noble and worthy purpose. Every bad thing that happens in this world renews your determination to be there for others in their hour of greatest need, yes? Now, the next step in resiliency is motivation turned into action. The Bible says faith without works is what? Faith without works is dead. Motivation without action is not truly motivation. You see, there are no ultimate sheepdogs. They're just people up and down the scale. On one end of the scale is denial. What's the opposite of denial? Acceptance. If you truly accept, you'll prepare. The more you strip away denial and embrace preparation, the better able you are to survive physically and psychologically. Do you understand? So what I tell you is in these coming times that this is just the beginning. More bad things are coming. And every bad thing that happens renews your determination that the world needs what you have to give. Do you understand? Motivation turned into action. Identify the things you can do and do them. Master your profession. Carry the life-saving tools of your possession with you. Be prepared for your moment of truth. Take this as an opportunity to have learned how to do a better job the next time, the next time, the next time. So number one, these violent times reassure us within our heart. Motivation, the world needs what we have to give. But number two, it also motivates us to come further up that path. And that's what you're doing today. I honor you who have dedicated yourself to come today to help yourself and your loved ones and others in these violent times. I honor you who have taken your own time and your own resources to come today to have a few of these tools that can carry us on through these times. So folks, come further up that scale. And we'll talk in a few minutes about coming up that scale. But what I want you to understand is that the sheepdog, we did our sheepdog kids book here, and we said, we start with what I call the angel of the night. Fear not the night. Fear that which walks the night, and I am that which walks the night. But only evil need fear me. And gentle souls sleep safe in their bed because I walk the night. Carpe noctem, seize the night. We're the sheepdogs, you understand? And I got a pop quiz for you. Oh no, nobody said there'd be a test. Identify for me the sheepdog in this photograph. Now, a bomb has gone off left of the screen, and everybody is kind of looking in that direction. Huh? Look at them all looking out that way. What's going on? Get out of there. He's shooting at you. Look at the sheepdog striding toward the danger. Look at that kid. I love that kid. That kid is a survivor. He's already moving. Yeah? Here's the exact same scene a split second later. The flock is in full stampede. The sheepdog strides toward the danger. That little guy, he knows good cover when he sees it. You know what's better than a ceramic plate between you and the bad guy? 2 plates, a camelback human body between you and the bad guy. Now, not just that guy, but everybody who's there for them at that hour of need. Everybody. The wolf says might makes right. The sheepdog says might alone is not strength and compassion is not weakness. Might alone is not strength and compassion is not weakness. The wolf, the coward, will use the lambs as human shields. The sheepdog is a human shield for the lambs. Let me show you another little boy. Discover the sheepdog's moment of truth. And let you read the caption on this one, folks. He's one of 4 kids being held hostage. And I marked out the name of the criminal. I never say any criminal's name. Folks, we have irrefutable scientific evidence. Every time the media tells us a name and shows us a picture of some killer, they're inspiring others to do the same. The magnitude of the irresponsible behavior in turning these killers into celebrities, why do they have to keep showing us a picture and keep telling the name year after year, decade after decade? So don't worry about the criminal, but remember Torrey Kennedy, 10 years old, one of 4 kids being held hostage, literally being used as human shields. Cops and a firefighter got him out of a window. You see 2 cops and a firefighter got him out of a window, and they're physically screening him with their bodies. They're physically protecting him with their bodies as he moved away from danger. Look at that little hand grip in that jacket. Look at that little face press in that jacket. Somewhere deep in that young man's soul, he knows the sheepdog will be there for him. With fire, EMS, social workers, mental health providers, cops, all of us, if we're there for them in their hour of greatest need, they will never forget. I believe courage and honor will defeat hate and fear every time. I believe in truth, justice, and the American way. I believe it will defeat crime and violence in the end. I believe in the redeeming power of love. And I believe sheepdogs who love their fellow citizens enough to lay their life down for them represent one of the most powerful and beautiful forces in our civilization. And all of you who go in harm's way that others may live, all of you believe in who you are, believe in what you do. You know, I do a lot of military work, and they're always thanking the troops for their service. And I thought, come on, these guys have volunteered for this. They like what they're doing. The ones who are sacrificing are the families. And the families who stand behind our sheepdogs are truly the ones that deserve our greatest thanks. They sustained them and carried them through these dark and desperate hours, yes? We're all on this team together, trying to sustain ourselves in these tragic times. And sometimes the sheep are wary of the sheepdog. Sometimes the sheep are leery of the sheepdog. But we like our sheep, yeah. We like our sheep. And we would have trouble living with ourselves. We would have trouble living with ourselves. If somebody came to kill our lambs, we had done everything we can do. So come further up that chart. Identify the things you can do them. Do them. We'll give you a couple examples shortly. Well, the next step in resiliency is a positive self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, I've done psychiatric grand rounds in quite a few hospitals and emergency rooms. I did Department of Defense-wide psychiatric grand rounds. It caught on camera and pumped out to over 100 locations worldwide in Department of Defense on PTSD. And a little bit different angle on the people seem to find a value. But the next step in resiliency is a positive self-fulfilling prophecy. This is terribly important. I'm so glad we fit this into the first hour. If you believe these life and death events will destroy you, then you're already halfway home to being destroyed. Do you understand? You've got to believe that the bad things in life can make us stronger. See, Hollywood's given us 2 goofy myths. And the first goofy Hollywood myth is what I call the pity party. Hollywood loves the pity party. The tormented, haunted veteran comes home from the war scarred for life. There are people like that, and we need to be there for them. But you must believe the vast majority are made stronger by the bad things in their life. Nietzsche said, what doesn't kill us only makes us what? And that's the name of a book I commend your attention. What doesn't kill us? The New Science of Post-Traumatic Growth. Everybody's heard about post-traumatic stress. Far more important is post-traumatic growth. The Bible talks about it over. Nietzsche flat stole that from the Bible. 2,000 years before Nietzsche, Romans chapter 5, we glory in tribulation. For tribulation work of patience. Patience experience hope, and hope maketh not ashamed. Romans chapter 5, 2,000 years before Nietzsche. The idea of being made stronger, the bad things in life is not a new idea. So, but the pity party, waving the victim card, that's a new idea. We don't want nothing to do with it. And there is so much garbage about our troops in the media. Hey, you know, if you like, come up and grab some of these. I'll sign them for you. You know, 3 different times these went up to charity auctions. They're charity auctions, yeah? But every time they made more than $200, yeah? Not even dead yet, my art's worth money. For you, it's free, yeah? But folks, when we talk about this whole business of the pity party, I want you to stay with me on this. There's some things that will kind of change your perspective, maybe. And it was in this whole business of the suicide of our veterans. Now, how many of y'all heard 22 veterans a day take their life? Best way to tell that's accurate. About 140 a week. Is there anybody in the room here that knew of that 22 a day, only 1 or 2 are from the current war? Did anybody know that? Only 1 or 2 are from the current war. Obviously, there's more veterans. In the 1950s and 60s, they drafted everybody. Elvis Presley was a veteran. Here is a Gallup poll that tells us 24% of all adult American males are veterans. And most of them are 80 and 70-year-old men. Do you understand? Most of those suicides are in our elderly, and suicide among our elderly is a major concern. And one suicide is one too many. Every needs to be dealt with. But when they say 22 veterans a day take their life, there's kind of an omission here. And mostly what we're looking at is confirmation bias. One of the most powerful human forces. We believe something, we find data that reinforces it, and we never look any further. But we got to look a little further. We've got to look a little deeper. And so you see research that says 8% of our prison population is veterans, but 24% of adult American males are veterans. Do you understand? 22 veterans a day are taking their life, but only 1 or 2 are from the current war. And so people believe that war is evil and war can do great harm. And they find data to reinforce that belief. 22 veterans a day, boom, it's got to be from the current war. No, it's not. No, it's not. The vast, vast majority, and if you really want to be concerned about suicide, let's switch the focus, not from our veterans to our elderly. And the suicide rate among our elderly is a cause of great concern. Do you understand? I don't know how you feel about euthanasia one way or the other, but one guy calls it self-euthanasia. Do you understand? Those who are making their own decisions at the end of psychological life, do we count them as suicides? Are they a concern? I think they are. But it's more complex than just saying 22 veterans a day take their life. Are you with me on this? It's more complex, and we got to have the broad view to do an accurate job of dealing with it. And again, when they say 8% of the prison population is veterans, remember 24% of adult American males are veterans. And just get a deeper sense of what else is going on out there so that we can do a better job of being there for them. And they're our greatest need. And folks, what about this one? An NPR piece based on a New York Times piece. Over 100 veterans of this war have come home and committed murder. True, this war, over 100 veterans come home and committed murder. But stop. Look a little deeper. You see, we've been at war going on 18 years. We've had well over 3 million Americans in the wars. The murder rate for citizens 18 to 25 is 25 per 100,000 per year. Out of any million Americans in that general age group, there's 250 murders a year. 3 million veterans of this war in that general group should have given us 750 murders last year alone. Extrapolate that data back, over 17 years of war, and statistically speaking, our veterans should have given us thousands and thousands of murders. All they proved was, and this is a stone fact, the returning veteran is much less likely to commit violent crime than a non-veteran. Are you with me on this? Everyone is a tragedy, and everyone deserves our attention. We need to have a balanced approach, and as a baseline, we need to understand that they're not broken. Some need our help. We'll be there for them. But that raises the biggest question of all. What ratio of our veterans contract PTSD? A half, a third, a quarter? Well, folks, used to be able to dig for this data. Now it comes right out. Go to the VA website, look up public health, PTSD in Iraq and Afghanistan. Do that with your PowerPoint. But I spit on your PowerPoint. Yeah. 15%. Let's call it 16%. What have we got? 15.7%. We'll call it 16% of the veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan have PTSD. About 11% of the ones who didn't deploy to Iraq, Afghanistan have PTSD. About 5% contract PTSD. The British studied their troops in Afghanistan, 5%. The Dutch studied their troops in Afghanistan, 5%. Now, 5% of 3 million people is a lot of people. 16% of 3 million people is 500,000 people. And they need our help, and we'll be there for them. Are you with me on this? But the idea that everybody in a traumatic event is going to have PTSD, it's not true. And recognize that. You can make a pretty good argument that life in America messes up twice as many people as a combat tour. There's a lot of people out there need our help, and we'll be there for them. But please, you must believe the vast majority are made stronger by the experience. How many all saw Saving Private Ryan? Saw what the World War II veterans live with? Not for a one-year rotation. Year after year without end in sight, the World War II vets faced things we can't imagine. And they came home and they were the greatest generation. And a new greatest generation is rising up. Please, no pity party. Going to that life and death event, believe it'll make you stronger. The entire community is better prepared, God forbid, should this ever happen again. Yes? We've been here once before. Should it ever happen again, the entire community is better prepared. You have something going for you that other communities don't. You've been through this. It makes us stronger. No pity party. And folks, where did all the crazy numbers come from? Well, there was a good study in the first batch of troops coming back from Iraq. And it said 30 to 40% had some symptoms of PTSD. Having some of the symptoms of PTSD, not PTSD, it's normal. We'll show a lot more about that. Loud noise goes off, boom, hit the dirt. That's one of the symptoms of PTSD. It's also a survival mechanism that'll take a while to go away. Now Google that, you find it word for word, and then we took one word out. Is that a lie? Taking out one word? 30, 40% had symptoms of PTSD. Oh, got symptoms. You must have PTSD. One word out. Take one word out. Is that false? Is that a lie? 30, 40% have PTSD. Somewhere along the line, you lost the 30. Google 40% PTSD. Some of the times it comes up. And every time is a misrepresentation. I presented national, international psych conferences. Huge auditoriums with every flavor of shrink from every nation you can imagine. And the British psychiatrists keep coming up to me. The Brits keep coming up and said, Dave, the British troops running 5% PTSD. The Americans running 40%. What's the difference? The difference is a pretty tragic misrepresentation of our veterans in the media. You understand? And again, it comes back to confirmation bias. Very, very few people are intentionally lying. They just find data that supports their belief and they run with it. And this can be dangerous. If you think PTSD is going to happen to you, you're far more likely to get it. Do you understand? We've all heard of a hypochondriac. A hypochondriac can make themselves physically ill through mental processes. Believe me, you can make yourself mentally ill through mental processes, right? So go into that life and death event, believe it'll make you stronger. And understand that there's a lot of people that need our help out there. It's about 1 out of 10 of the general population. You push the right button, you'll get a post-traumatic response. Now, they need our help, and we'll be there for them. But no pity party. Go into that life and death event, believe it'll make you stronger. Know in your heart the fundamental truth that should this ever happen again, our community is far, far better prepared. And you know, our military and our cops sometimes have the attitude that if it has to happen, Lord, let it happen to me, because I'm prepared, and they're not. You understand? I don't think it's ever any of our prayers, but it's a mindset that says we're stronger for the experience. So no pity party. But the other goofy Hollywood myth is what I call the macho man. No pity party, no macho man or macho gal. Plenty of them out there. It was an old Miami detective, 22 years ago, first on the road. He said, Colonel, you tell these kids, don't be the macho man. He said, I got my shooting, it's eat me alive. Most cops getting a shooting is no big deal. For some it is, and that's okay, we're there for them. He said, it was 2 years of hell after my police shooting. I was losing my wife, I was losing my kids, I was losing my job, and I tried to macho it out. He said, finally, just before the divorce, my wife convinced me to get help. 2 months later, it was all over. He said, the docs are good, and they get better every day. We have got to create an environment which is okay to get help. And here's the key. You must believe the help can help. One of the greatest lies out there. I don't know how they get away with it. I've seen it over and over again. PTSD is an untreatable disease. No, it's not. Folks, here's the cover of Newsweek magazine. Cover of Newsweek, breaking through the radical therapy for treating the untreatable victims of PTSD. There's no such thing. And they got hell. The online version, you go online, they went back and stealth edited that. But the cover of Newsweek magazine, read by millions of people on the newsstand, they went back and changed it. They knew they were wrong. But why, in the face of hundreds of thousands of PTSD cases treated and recovered? Why, in the face of ever-advancing medical science? Why, in the face of the indomitable human spirit? Why would any mental health professional say PTSD is untreatable? Well, two reasons. One is politics, confirmation bias, yeah. They're all driven mad by war, and they'll never recover, and the price war is too high. The price war is high. But it doesn't do us any good to base what we do on a falsehood, you understand? But number two, if I hear you in a couple of months, I'm out of a job. If they hook you to a lifetime of therapy, and maybe with a lifetime of therapy we can adapt. No. We're increasingly convinced if you want to get better and to get the proper treatment, almost every recover fully from PTSD and be stronger for the experience. And truly, one of the greats in the field is here with us today in the classroom. Chet, where you at? Chet, where you at? There he is back there in the corner. Get one of his cards. Get help. The docs you go to, they get better every day. Here's somebody right here, locally, with great skill and resources. And if you have friends who are having trouble, you tell them, get help. The single greatest thing you can do for them is to get them that help. And you must believe the help can help. We're darn good at treating PTSD. We get better every day. The medical science moves on. And so, folks, we have a path. We're the path between these two obstacles. Now, we're not saying this is easy. You didn't choose the easy road when you chose to go toward the danger as a first responder. But it's a whole lot easier if you know the danger to the left and right as we work our way through this path. No pity party. Recognize all the ways that we're stronger because of our experience. Recognize that we're better prepared should it ever happen again. But no macho man, no macho gal. If there is a problem, deal with it and have confidence that health can help. And one of the greatest gifts you can give to anybody, if they're having trouble, you stay on top of them till they get help. If somebody had an infection, if somebody's had some terrible wound, you'd pick them up and drive them to the hospital. If somebody's having emotional, psychological problems, lovingly, persistently, do everything you can to get them to get the help that they need. And find that middle road between those two obstacles. Well, folks, in the next hour, we're going to really hit the high ground. We're going to begin to tie the pieces together. We laid the foundation. The first step is resiliency. The second step is resiliency turned into action. In the next hour, I will show you some actions that you can take starting tonight that will rock your world. But folks, those who come out of traumatic events without PTSD, over and over, one of the factors they mention is their faith. Like I said, there's other ways we can deal with it. It can be a part of the process. But my most recent book came out in January. We've already got like 35-star reviews. Bulletproof Marriage. It's a 90-day devotional. Now, my co-author, when you look it up on Amazon, Adam Davis they only mentioned the first author. Adam did a bit more of this than I did. He deserves to be there. But you look it up on Amazon, you'll see the book, and I'm the co-author of it, had a hand in it. But it's a great resource that we can tap into and build upon each other. And we make the point right up front. Your spouse should be your primary backup. We're on this team together, we're responders, and the spouse should be that primary backup. All right, so folks, I wanted to touch base on another angle too, on this media violence stuff real quick, and to understand what's going on with our kids. And we're gonna take this and move to a place in this next 15, 20, 30 minutes that I think will be very valuable for you. Just remember, we're kind of moving from the children's standpoint, we're moving towards this book. And folks, the next step in resiliency is the most important one of all. It's the elephant in the living room. Now, if you're severely malnourished, the malnutrition putting enormous stress on your body, somebody attacks you while you're malnourished, those stressors can amplify each other. That's why the elderly can be so vulnerable. That's why the POWs or the Holocaust survivors be so vulnerable. The malnutrition combined with the captors did to them can make it harder. If you're injured or ill, obviously the injury, the illness, putting stress on your body. If somebody attacks you while you're injured or ill, those stressors can amplify each other. Again, that's why the elderly can be so vulnerable. The physical infirmity of the elderly body combined with a traumatic event make it harder for them. But I'm willing to bet there's probably nobody here severely ill or injured. Probably nobody here is severely malnourished. Entirely too many of us are sleep deprived. If you're sleep deprived and the bad stuff comes down, you're far more likely to bring home the gift that keeps on giving. And folks, we are in the middle of a civilization-wide epidemic of sleep deprivation. Now, the primary thing I want you to understand about sleep deprivation is a critical concept right up front. After 18 hours without sleep, after 18 hours without sleep, your impaired judgment equal to 0.08 legally drunk. After 24 hours without sleep, your impaired judgment equal to 0.10 above legally drunk. After 2 nights without sleep, you are psychotic. Any graduate of Army Ranger School will tell about hallucinations on the 3rd day without sleep. And we're in the middle of an epidemic of sleep deprivation. The cell phones, the text messages, and the social media, and maybe most of all, the video games. Now, right now, 200 million people are playing the video game Fortnite. Now, that's a T-rated game, 13 and above only. But you got to dig for a long time to find that. Well, folks, if you got a kid under 13 playing the game, you got it right there. You tell them, look, the people who made the game say you shouldn't play it till you're 13, right there, right off the bat. But the thing to realize is this, how incredibly addictive these things are. Right now, 200 million people playing that game. We do this, and 0.5% say, oh, good time, save the game and quit. So we'll never do that again. We do this, and nobody quits, so they do more of that. It's a constant interactive feedback loop with just the right frequency, just the right flicker rate, just the right color pattern, just the right plot to make that game impossible to turn off. Even when there's an end point, the motivation to jump back into it again is just overwhelming. So folks, one of the things to realize is the games intentionally put us in what's called a flow state. We become incapable of keeping track of time. Suddenly it's 3 o'clock in the morning, got no idea where the last 6 hours went, and your spouse is sincerely ticked off. Now folks, adults are being destroyed by these games. Adults are playing the game until they die. Adults mess themselves and wet themselves with this act because they can't leave the game. And research tells us 15% of all divorces in America, video games are the cause. 15%. Folks, and actually, it ain't that many 62-year-olds getting divorces over video games. Younger, actually quite a bit higher. We'll come back to that. But if adults are being eaten up by these things, what is it happening to children? The impact on our children, the sleep deprivation, we're in a civilization-wide epidemic of sleep deprivation. Now, folks, in our military, in the active duty military, we study every suicide intensely. We call it what it is. We report it to a central location. Probably the only major group of individuals who are truly doing that in a systematic way. And in the active duty military, the only place I have good data, our suicides have nothing to do with combat. A non-combat vet is likely to take life as a combat vet. But a sleep-deprived person can be up to 5 times more likely to take their life. A sleep-deprived person can be up to 5 times more likely to take their life. Now, we always knew that alcohol and suicide were strongly related. Look, taking your life there are powerful inhibitions against that. You've got to have things that break down those inhibitions to be able to take your life. And alcohol has always been one of the key factors. Alcohol creates impaired judgment. You make a bad decision, you get a chance to rethink it, yeah? So when the Soviet Union and the communists were running Russia, they had one of the most horrendous suicide rates on the planet. And they led the world in bringing suicide down by strictly rationing and limiting alcohol. Well, then Soviet Union collapses, free enterprise, alcohol for everybody, and Russia's had a horrendous suicide rate. But in the last 2 years, Russia has led the world in bringing suicide down. How'd they do it? Strictly rationing and limiting alcohol. The link between alcohol and suicide is just irrefutable. But folks, the most pervasive form of impaired judgment is sleep deprivation. So here's parenting 101 for the 21st century. When you send your kid to bed at night, take their cell phone away from them. No laptop in the room, no cell phone in the room. They have got to go to the room and sleep. A cop told me, he said, I had a good girl. He said she was an A student. She said, Dad, it's embarrassing. You don't take my phone every night. You can trust me. He said, so I trusted her. Let her keep her phone every night. He said, a little while later, she took her life. He said, my little girl took her life. And he said, I never knew the hell she was living in until we looked at the text messages on her cell phone. Night after night of ceaseless, relentless, vicious bullying. You don't understand, well, that's happening. You can't ignore it. You can't just say, oh, don't pay attention to those people. That's not how it works. She's up all night long trying to defend herself, all night long trying to find somebody to stand up for her. He said, my little girl was bullied, tormented, sleep deprived to death in front of my eyes. And I let it happen. He said, the one thing on earth I could have done for her was take her cell phone every night, let her turn off all the bad stuff in this world. He said, I can't ignore that text message in the middle of the night. How do we expect our children to? I cannot emphasize this enough. Worldwide, suicides have exploded. Teen suicides have exploded. It's worldwide, and there's a new factor out there. Folks, they call them teenagers. Teenage girls, 10, 11, 12. Teenage girls' suicide rate has tripled in just the last decade in America, per capita. Teenage girls' suicide rate tripled in just the last decade. And the new factor, irrefutably, undoubtedly, is this horrendous sleep deprivation. Traffic deaths are another major killer of our kids. Decade after decade, traffic deaths came down. Seat belts, airbags, technology. Decade after decade, we brought traffic deaths down. In recent years, worldwide, traffic deaths are back up again. And we know why. Without a doubt, sleep deprivation is a major factor in traffic accidents. There's a reason why truck drivers are required by law to get enough sleep. There's a reason why airline pilots are required by law to get enough sleep. And if you have a kid that's got to be behind the wheel the next day, the single most important thing you can do is make sure he gets a good night's sleep the night before. The three major killers of our kids: suicide, traffic deaths, and drug overdoses. Just taking drugs is impaired judgment right there. Do you understand? And folks, remember, on the third day without sleep, 2 nights without sleep, and you're psychotic. I will make anybody in this room have hallucinations, see things, hear things that aren't there on that third day without sleep. And we are in the middle of a world with many, many of those people out there. They play video games all night long. The video games are powerfully addictive. They cannot turn it off. They play video games all night long. They go to work sleep deprived. They can hardly wait to get back and play video games. They go to work sleep deprived. And you get 2 nights without sleep. Those video games are doing it. And folks, in social media to a certain degree, text messaging, people who text you in the middle of the night without a darn good reason are not your friends. Friends do not text friends in the middle of the night unless it's a damn good, desperate need. You tell them, if that happens again, I will block you. Friends do not text friends in the middle of the night. We respect each other's sleep. You understand? But that whole dynamic of social media and text messaging and then the addictive video games are killing our children. Drug overdoses, traffic deaths, and suicides. Depending on who you talk to, which is 1, 2, or 3, but they're the 3 top killers of our kids. And just taking drugs is impaired judgment right there. Please, as we love our children, as we love our way of life, let your kids get a good night's sleep. More about that in a few minutes. We'll talk about who's going to be your mommy, who's going to make you get that sleep. All right, so let's talk about sleep and a couple of key concepts. Remember, sleep deprivation creates impaired judgment. In law enforcement, sleep deprivation is the greatest predictor of use of force errors and ethical failures. You look at a video of a cop doing something stupid, you say, that's just stupid. We gotta own that one. Why is he doing that? I'll tell you why, because he's sleep deprived. And sleep deprived people will say things and do things they will regret for the rest of their lives. We can no longer afford to have people making life and death decisions who are sleep deprived. Air traffic controllers, nuclear power plant operators, tugboat operators, fairboat operators, Amtrak engineers, truck drivers, airline crews, and many, many other people required by law get enough sleep, but first responders aren't. And that should enrage us. The person who decides whether or not to shoot your kid should be the best trained, best paid, best qualified guy on the planet. So what I told you is our airlines are in a zero defects. The airlines cannot crash a single plane. Oh, come on. 10,000 traffic accidents a day, one airline crash a day is reasonable. No. One airline crash a year? No. One every 10 years? No. You cannot crash a single plane. You cannot let a single passenger be sucked out the window. We will investigate you, we will find you, we will fire you, and we might just put you in jail. That's what zero defects looks like. Well, our first responders are now in a zero defects environment. Everything every first responder does will be caught on camera. And we cannot afford to have a single person walk out that door and do something stupid, or we all pay a terrible price for it. And if I were king and I could pass one law, I would mandate sleep for first responders. Then we wouldn't have enough. Then pay them more and hire more. And we will. We're a wealthy nation. When things go wrong, we throw money at it. And our first responders are just beginning to see the kind of money they deserve. You need more cops, you need more first responders, then pay them more. But we will not put sleep-deprived people making life and death decisions. We're now in zero defects environment. We cannot afford to keep doing that. All right, so folks, two critical concepts on sleep. Number one, sleep is a biological blind spot. Our bodies are incompetent at making us get enough sleep. It always happened naturally. Throughout history, untold thousands of years, every night, without fail, it got dark. And there was nothing to do. You'll have so much talking, so much sex, you roll over, you went to sleep. Then Tommy Edison invented the light bulb and the television and the video game. And suddenly we're able to go 24/7. And our bodies don't know how to make us get enough sleep. Our bodies are amazing, get the right amount of food, water, and air. Have you ever thought how good the body is at getting the right amount of food? How much extra food would a kid have to eat to put on 1 extra pound a month? If a kid puts on 1 extra pound a month, by the time he's 10, he's 120 pounds overweight. Do you understand? Our bodies are amazing getting air food. Well, as we get older, it gets harder. But our bodies are incompetent to get enough sleep. There is nothing macho about going without sleep. Any 10-year-old girl in a slumber party can do it. The macho thing is to manage your sleep. Now, how many people in the room here are wearing the Fitbit or the Apple Watch with the sleep app? I recommend it with all my heart. You will rock your world. The single best investment you can make in your personal wellness. I think the Fitbit 3 is doing the best job. It's waterproof. It'll track your calories, track your steps, track your heart rate, but most of all, it will track your sleep. And it will rock your world. Your spouse is out, the best gift you can give somebody is that Fitbit Charge 3, and it'll rock their world. It's intuitive. Download the app, and it just explains it all to you. And it's good stuff. There's nothing macho about going without sleep. The professional thing, the good thing, is to manage your sleep. All right, so sleep's a biological blind spot. The video games are a social blind spot. Now, the video games, and to a certain degree, social media, puts us in a flow state. We're unable to keep track of time. Suddenly, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, got no idea where the last 6 hours went, and your spouse just left you, because this has been happening every night for the last year. Do you understand? So folks, recognize the fact that these things are a social blind spot. If you staggered in the house drunk every night, 3 o'clock in the morning, you know darn well you got a problem. You staggered to work sleep deprived because you played video games all night long, you have a problem. Nobody ever told you that. It's a social blind spot. It's not your fault. Nobody told you that. Now you know. Now folks, if somebody showed up at work drunk, you'd kick his tail. If he showed up to work so hungover he couldn't do the job day after day, you'd kick his tail. If he shows up to work sleep deprived because he played video games all night long, he needs his tail kicked. There's nothing cute, there's nothing funny about showing up to work drunk. And there's nothing cute, there's nothing funny about showing up to a life and death job sleep deprived. And folks, it's now you understand. It's a social blind spot. Nobody told you that. Now, there is nothing wrong with adults playing any game, but you got to set a timer. You got to limit yourself. Block out an hour every night, turn off the world, play the game, ding, the timer goes off. Use your steely discipline, save the game and move on. I play a major, massive, metamorphic, online orgasmic game. You can't do anything an hour or two a night. Well, that's cool, that's cool. Decide now what's important. Is your oath as a first responder, as a cop important? Is your marriage vows important? Is your health important? Your family important? Your job important? Or is that game important? Decide right now, because if that game is what's really important, it's cool. Quit your job right now. Move in your parents' basement. Draw unemployment. Buy a John Economy-sized bag of Cheetos. Play video games all night long. Millions of people are doing that. But you want to uphold your oath as a first responder, as a cop? You want to uphold your marriage vows? You want to support your family and your job and your health? You've got to get those things under control. All right, so folks, two things I want to tell you right now. And I trained the chiefs of police at the state level, state after state. I trained the National Sheriff's Association. And one of the things that I tried to nail to them over and over again is how critical sleep management is for law enforcement. And there's two profoundly stupid things that we're doing. Now, one is the 12-hour shifts. Folks, California Highway Patrol came off 12s a couple years back. 10,000 people moved to 12-hour shifts, and it was a disaster. Accidents exploded, internal affairs investigations, complaints exploded. At the end of a 12-hour shift, people are exhausted. And tired people will do things and say things they regret for the rest of their life. Now, folks, again, certain people can do it. Cops want to be like firefighters. Work 12-hour shifts, go all that time off. Well, firefighters get to sleep on the job. Only firefighters and prostitutes make money in bed. Now, you know we're teasing. You know we're teasing. You know we love you. And the truth is, very often they do not get that opportunity to sleep. But folks, here's what we need to say. Unless it is a declared emergency, we will not put tired first responders making life and death decisions. We're in a zero defects environment like the airlines. If the airline executive says, I don't care if that pilot's tired, fly that flight anyway, that guy's going to jail. And in the very near future, when we have first responder leadership that's, I don't care if they're tired, go work that shift anyway. And if bad things happen, that individual will be held accountable. And so, folks, unless it's a declared emergency, we can't keep going that way. And it's good to tease our firefighters, but EMS and fire often see themselves going 100 miles an hour, never get a chance to stop. The 12s are insane. Just take a look at the data. It's overwhelming. I'm a huge science geek. My favorite website is sciencedaily.com. I check it every day through every category. We live in amazing times. All right, so, folks, the 10s are barely doable. The data's there. If you do 10-hour shifts, put a hard cap on it. But the other thing that we're doing is rotating shifts. Just do some research on this, folks. Rotating shifts takes years off people's lives. It destroys families. Just a couple of months back, a major study showed that rotating shifts destroys families. Families can handle day shift. Families can handle night shift. They cannot handle rotating shifts. It takes years off people's lives. It takes up to a full year to fully adapt to night shift. It takes up to a full year to completely adapt to night shift. Every time you rotate shifts, you're destroying their family, you're taking years off their lives, and you're putting them behind the 8 ball. You're putting them behind the power curve. There is nothing we could do that would better guarantee every single one of our people are psychologically and physiologically vulnerable. There's nothing we could do to harm our people more than rotating shifts. The old timers knew what they're doing, folks. 8-hour shifts, 10s are doable, put a cap on it if you do, and bid for your shift based on seniority. You want to stay nights for lifetime? Good for you. Stay on nights, hunt the wolf. You got the seniority, you want to move to days, it's only fair. You've earned it. You have the seniority. That's the only good mechanism we can find anywhere to make this work. But the new guys come on board and says, I don't want to wait to get seniority to be on day shift. This is no fair. Let's rotate shifts. Well, suck it up, buttercup. Because rotating shifts means everybody loses. So most of the people in this room can't control shift work, but there are some things you can control I want to identify right now. And I want you to understand a couple of concepts here. Number one, sleep 101 begins with nap 101. Naps are our friend. Naps are good, but shoot for 30 minutes or more. 30 minutes is not a good nap. It's a minimum nap. You're driving down the road, your head is bobbing. Take a little micro nap. Yeah, you've been there, little micro naps. Right? Pull over. Put your head down for 10 minutes. The alarm goes off. It's kind of a startle response. We've all been there. But as far as sleep deprivation goes, a 10-minute nap was a total waste of time. Put your head down for 30 minutes. The alarm goes off. You're bleary and you're groggy and you don't want to get up. You know why? Because you're asleep. It takes 30 minutes, fall solid, sound, deep cycle, dang it, I want to get back over and asleep. And in general, anything less than 30 minutes is a waste of time. So that means the snooze alarm is not our friend. The snooze alarm is always set for 10, sometimes 15 minutes, because that's just enough time to get that startle response. We've all been there. The snooze alarm is an evil little button that makes you relive the worst part of every day over and over again. And I am deadly serious. Never touch that snooze alarm again. Do some research on this. It's like your body tries to adapt to 10-minute naps. Like you're trying to teach your body to take 10-minute naps, and it can't do it. You will do physical, psychological harm to your body as your body tries to adapt to taking 10-minute naps, and it can't do it. And do some research on this. And folks, what about willpower, grit, determination? Have you got what it takes to suck it up and drive on and survive? Are you in charge of your body, or is your body in charge of you? Is the first act of every day to surrender to your body? Was the first act of every day hit the snooze alarm and give in? Was the first act of every day to take charge and roll out of bed? Muhammad Ali, one of the great champions in history, boxer, Muhammad Ali said championship began every morning the alarm went off. He hated running so much he put his running shoes on top of the alarm. When the alarm went off, he grabbed his running shoes. That's champion willpower. Give a kid a marshmallow. Tell him, you eat this marshmallow right now, but I'll be back in 2 minutes with another marshmallow. If you don't eat it, you can have them both. That's willpower. And it is the single greatest predictor of success in life. And it is teachable. Folks, we gotta take charge of our body. And if the first act of every day to surrender to your body, then that's bad. You're doing harm to grit, determination, willpower. And you get a 10-minute snooze, another snooze, a third snooze. You just threw away 30 minutes of your day. Those 3 snoozes, no by as far as your life goes, no by as far as your sleep goes. You and anybody in the room with you threw away 30 minutes of the day to trick your body and go without sleep. I will teach you a trick that'll put 30 minutes of quality sleep back in every hour. That adds up to 3.5 hours sleep, 30 minutes back in every night. That adds up to 3.5 hours sleep back in every week. That adds up to 2 pure, beautiful nights sleep back in every month. That adds up to 24 nights sleep back every year. Very simple. Set the alarm a half hour later and get the hell out of bed. Show some discipline. And if it's that stinking hard to get out of bed, what's your body trying to tell you? Body's screaming, I need more sleep. Tell your body, I got to get up, but I promise I'll get to bed early tonight. Yes? And folks, do this. I'm deadly serious. Put the alarm where you got to get out of bed to turn it off. Or set your cell phone for 6 o'clock, 6:01, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. By the time you turn off all those alarms, you're awake. And the you that goes to bed at night has got to make you that get up in the morning get out of bed. Exercise that discipline. Exercise that willpower. This snooze alarm is not our friend. It's doing great harm. You can begin to rock your world tonight. Folks, the dark is our friend. You may not get 1 more minute of sleep. You get quality sleep, and you do it in a truly dark room. Now, y'all saw the movie Black Hawk Down? The helicopter unit at Black Hawk Down is called Task Force 160, Special Ops Aviation Regiment, the Night Stalkers. They're the Delta Force of our pilots. Navy SEALs got bin Laden, Army helicopters took them there. And these guys are fanatical about night operations. I've trained them on 4 occasions since 9/11. They teach everybody to create a truly dark room to sleep in. They teach them to put aluminum foil over the window to block out all light. You know, major study in the sleep lab. In a truly dark room, the bathroom light is on and the door is shut. The light coming under the crack of the bathroom door is enough light to stop your body from producing the melatonin that you need. Work hard on making it as dark as you can and combine it with the old sleep mask. Folks in the military were issuing these masks out to everybody by the fistfuls. Looked like Lone Ranger without the eye holes, yeah? I got a couple of them here. I got one I carry around in the road. I got one hanging off the bedpost at home. It's not just for kinky marital applications, yeah? I'll be in 4, 5, 6 cities a week. I'll stagger in at dark 30 in the evening if my flights come through and curl up and go to sleep. A couple hours later, it's daytime. Now, we got good curtains. But if you can tell it's daytime outside, that's way too much light. If you can tell it's daytime, that's way too much light. I got my sleep mask on, baby. I'm going to get another 3, 4, 6 hours of quality sleep. You may not get one more minute of sleep. You will rock your world by sleeping in a truly dark room. And folks, teach your children to sleep in the dark. Babies are sloshing with melatonin. Babies can sleep anywhere. By the time we become teenagers, the body produces much less melatonin. And our teenagers are being eaten alive by sleep deprivation, other problems. And the best thing we can do for our teenagers is teach them to sleep in a truly dark room. And so, folks, we can rock our world right now by going home tonight and sleeping in a truly dark room and get online and order some sleep masks and see which one works for you. All right, the dark is our friend. Nicotine is not our friend. There's always somebody in the perimeter said, man, if I'd have a dip, I'd have a smoke and stay awake. Wrong. With one exception. I was training the Texas Rangers, one of the most impressive groups of people I have ever had the honor to work with. They're the real McCoy. They're the real thing. During the break, one of the old Texas Ranger comes up, mustache, hog leg on his hip. He said, Colonel, you're wrong. Nicotine can keep you awake. I said, sir, who am I to argue with you if it works for you? He said, no, listen, got to chew your tobacco. I said, oh, something in your mouth. I can see that. He said, oh, listen to me. You chew tobacco, you spit it in your hand, and you rub it in your eye. He was dead serious. This is an old trick. During the Depression, they called it Hoover dust. Because they would prop the eyeball out, and they would put tobacco under the eyelid, and it would ache, and it would burn, and that would keep you awake. And if you were fired, your family starved. Do you understand? The only way nicotine do any good, if you inject it in your eye. Yeah? Alcohol is not our friend. Do not use alcohol to put yourself to sleep. There's nothing wrong with one glass of wine. There's nothing wrong with one beer. But if you're using alcohol to put yourself to sleep, you got a problem. Wear that Fitbit, pound down 3 beers, and see what it does to your sleep. It'll put you to sleep. It gives you bad quality sleep. You wake up again in just a few hours and not able to get back to sleep. Please don't use alcohol to put yourself to sleep. It is not our friend. It's given us bad quality sleep. Caffeine. Caffeine, our friend, not our friend. What do you think? Oh, caffeine's our friend. Caffeine's one of the most effective drugs we've ever found to temporarily limit your vulnerability, minimal side effects, if you're not abusing the drug on a daily basis. You need a quadruple shot latte to get you going in the morning. A 64-ounce big gulp Mountain Dew to carry you through the morning. Another quadruple shot latte at lunch. And a 6-pack of Rock Bull Star Monster energy drink after lunch. You're abusing the drug. You ever heard of build-up a tolerance to drug? You ever heard of habituation of drug? You ever seen a little crackhead whose main line of the drug to stay normal? That's what's happening to a lot of people with caffeine. They've abused the drug so much that they're getting nothing out of it, but barely staying normal. So take the challenge. I'm deadly serious. Take the challenge. Cut off all caffeine for 1 day. If you get withdrawal symptoms, that's what's happening. Those are withdrawal symptoms. Headaches, shakes, digestive problems, irritability. You get any withdrawal symptoms, that's living proof you're abusing the drug. When it needed, it will not be there for you. Remember, 18 hours without sleep or impaired judgment? 24 hours without sleep, even worse. But you can negate that for 1 night with caffeine. You can negate that impact for a night. Folks, I'm out here on the road 200-300 days a year. Once a year, my flight is canceled. I get a rental car. I drive all night to roll to the rental car. And I'll train for 8 hours straight and never miss a lick because caffeine's there for me. If I was abusing caffeine with mega doses on a daily basis, it wouldn't be there for me. And you say, it's too hard. I can't come down off caffeine. I can't do it. I know it's an addiction. I know there's a withdrawal symptoms. I just can't do it. Oh, well, what if you're in a traffic accident? You're in a coma, fighting for your life at the same time your body's going through caffeine withdrawal, you know? And what about this? You're driving your family home from vacation. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Your head is bobbing. Is a cup of coffee going to keep you awake? Or have you been abusing caffeine so bad that no amount of caffeine is going to keep you awake? And so the time to get it under control is now. An amazing, useful, powerful drug. And folks, the half-life of caffeine in our body is 5 hours. That means the caffeine you took at 5 p.m. is at half strength when you go to bed at 10 p.m. And it's making us have bad quality sleep. People say, caffeine don't bother my sleep. Then why are you taking it? Caffeine doesn't make us not sleep. Caffeine makes it easier to stay awake and harder to have quality sleep. You know, I train in our F-22 and F-35 squadrons. I train our Predator and Reaper squadrons. Just last week in South Dakota, F-16 squadron, I train, and they've always got the flight surgeon there. The flight surgeon's a scary, smart guy, full-blown MD, fully read up in the latest research. Everything will give you a bit bounce off these guys on a steady basis. If I stole this from one of those guys, he's been teaching this across the Spec Ops community, and he really nailed it here. This is what we call the sleep line. When you fall asleep, you drop below the sleep line. There's some shallow sleep, and then very often, very quickly, there's a shot of deep cycle sleep. And we're beginning to realize that this deep cycle sleep is magic stuff. The major tendon and muscle relaxation happens in deep cycle sleep. Folks, sleep deprivation creates chronic pain. Sleep deprivation creates chronic pain. So look at the opiate epidemic. Prescription opiates have always been there. You got to ask yourself, what is the new factor in the opiate epidemic? And it's sleep deprivation. An epidemic of sleep deprivation creates chronic pain. Doc, I heard all the time, give me a pill to fix it. You don't need a pill. You need more sleep. And you need deep cycle sleep. And caffeine is stopping you from getting deep cycle sleep. You start getting enough sleep, and you cut off caffeine after lunch, and see what that does to your pain. It is an amazing thing that can do for you right now. So that deep cycle sleep, we also know deep cycle sleep, just in the last year, research tells us deep cycle sleep is when the brain flushes all the garbage out of the brain. All those used up neurotransmitters are flushed out during deep cycle sleep. Never get deep cycle sleep, what happens to all that garbage? One of the greatest areas of scientific research in our lifetime is Alzheimer's and dementia. Alzheimer's is the most common form of dementia. Why is there so much of what we can do about it? And study after study tells us lack of sleep and lack of quality sleep is a key factor in Alzheimer's and dementia. Just 2 months ago, major study demonstrated lack of deep cycle sleep is the single greatest predictor of Alzheimer's. Folks, the garbage we put in our body and the bad sleep is a major factor in Alzheimer's and dementia. It's something every one of us should take seriously and dedicate ourselves to. The price we're paying for abusing our sleep, the price we're paying for this is horrendous. And we can do things about that. We can help. So that deep cycle sleep is magic stuff. And you get another shot of shallow sleep. Wake up and take a leak. Back to bed. Maybe another shot of deep cycle sleep. One more shot of deep cycle sleep. Wake up and go face the day. Now, if there's caffeine in your body, the sleep line moves. That's what caffeine does. The sleep line moves. Caffeine doesn't make us not sleep. It makes it easier to stay awake, harder to have quality sleep. If there's caffeine in your body, you're waking up here, 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 and here. You may not be aware of it. And you're not getting the deep cycle sleep here, here, and here. That's what caffeine is doing to us. Guard your sleep. Protect your sleep. Sleep is a little vacation that waits at the end of every day. Now, caffeine is a powerful drug that's got to be used effectively to be there when we need it. I'm deadly serious, folks. Right after lunch, you might need to hit a caffeine and then switch to decaf from that point on. Now, recent powerful research tells us that coffee, and it's been replicated over and over again, coffee appears to be just about one of the best things we can put in our body. Tea's right behind it. Coffee drinkers across the board are living several years longer than non-coffee drinkers. Some of you out there saying, I must be freaking immortal then. Yeah? Here's what we know. 3 or 4 cups of caffeinated coffee a day appear to be very good for us. Normal sized cups. Cup or 2 at breakfast, cup or 2 at lunch, appear to be very good for us. Recent research, 6 normal cups of coffee is when it starts going bad on you. Anything more than 5, and it starts really, and these are normal cups of coffee, is really going bad on you. Do you understand? So tea or coffee in the morning, have a cup or 2 at breakfast, cup or 2 at lunch, then switch to decaf, have all you want. And folks, study after study tell us those sodas are carcinogen. Those sugary sodas they're sugary poison. 1 a day is not going to kill us. It's like 1 candy bar a day. If your only form of hydration sodas, like your only form of candy, or your only form of nutrition is candy bars. And the diet sodas are worse. 1 diet soda a day is not going to kill us. If our blood type is Diet Coke, we got a problem. If that's your only form of hydration, you have a problem. And the energy drinks are condensed poison. We've been at war going on 18 years now. For the first 15 years, we passed out energy drinks like water. They gave it to us, we gave them to the troops. Aren't we nice guys? And then 2 major Department of Defense studies on the energy drinks. Today, there is a complete ban on issuing energy drinks to the armed forces. In an academic environment, the one pounding down the most energy drinks were the ones with the worst grades. In a tactical environment, the one taking the most energy drinks were the ones most likely to nod off on the job. All there is in that energy drink is a mega dose of caffeine and some stuff that helps metabolize it quickly. It will give you a 1-hour burst of physical ability, and then you crash. The second drink is doing you no good. Oh, feels good for about 10 minutes. Third drink feels good for about 5 minutes, but it's no good. The only place in the military that we'd even remotely want anybody to take one would be before a PT test. Yeah? There's a defined, limited period of time. You want to have physical ability. That's the only place. They are a sports drink. They're only good for sports. A 1-hour burst of physical ability. And they're killing us. These energy drinks are poison. The ones taking the most energy drinks were the ones most likely to get PTSD. Now, correlation is not causation. I think the energy drinks are having us bad sleep, and we know that is a factor in PTSD. I'm deadly serious, folks. We're seeing 30-year-olds with destroyed hearts from those energy drinks. Their hearts are being destroyed by those energy drinks. Do some research on this stuff, folks. They're condensed poison. Why would we put all that stuff on our body? Energy drinks, diet sodas, when coffee and tea and water, and docs say Gatorade. Docs say cut Gatorade 50%, pound it down, replace the electrolytes in your body. There's so many good things we put in our body. And you can begin to rock your world right now. After lunch, okay, we all might need that hit right after lunch, then cut off all caffeine and go to decaf and watch what it will do to you. If you start managing caffeine now, you start getting that sleep. And you know, how much sleep do we need? Huh? I only need 10 breaths of air a day. I only need 6 ounces of water a day. I only need 100 calories a day. I only need 4 hours of sleep. Those are all equally stupid statements. Your body needs X amount of food, X amount of air, X amount of water, and X amount of sleep. And in general, 8 hours is what we should be shooting for. And anything less than 7, and we're starting to pay a terrible price for it. Remember, we're talking chronic pain, we're talking Alzheimer's and dementia, and we're talking physical and psychological failure. Folks, when we're sleep deprived, we're not the cop we want to be, we're not the spouse we want to be, we're not the parent we want to be. Sleep deprived people will do things and say things that will regret for the rest of their life. They're far more likely to have a traffic death, they're far more likely to commit suicide, they're far more likely to make bad decisions that will get themselves and others killed. We cannot keep doing business like this. And you know, people attacking our cops. They want to attack our cops. I tell them, look, here's something everybody can agree on. Here's something. You want to go after cops? Here's something that could make a difference, and you cannot deny it. Mandate sleep for our first responders. Mandate it. Be the first state to pass the law. Oh, then we won't have enough. Then pay them more and hire more, and they will. We are a wealthy nation. Things go wrong, we throw money at it. And once unless it's declared emergency, we will not put sleep-deprived first responders out there who will rock our world. And one last thing on this, folks. Don't hesitate to go to the sleep lab and get wired up. There's so much sleep apnea out there. Snoring is not normal. Snoring means you probably have a problem. Go to the sleep lab and get wired up. One cop told me, she said, I had 7 years of headaches. She said, I almost forgot they were there. I went to the sleep lab. Partway through the night, they woke me up. You have sleep apnea. You have it bad. Wear the CPAP machine. She says, I woke up that next morning without a headache for the first time in 7 years. It is the most wonderful, beautiful thing that has ever happened in my life. A Navy SEAL 89, a Navy SEAL Master Chief told me, he said, I had 9 years of bad sleep. Everybody in the team complained about my snoring. Finally, I was ordered to go to the sleep lab. One night, the sleep lab. Master Chief, you got sleep apnea. You got it bad. Wear the CPAP machine, go back to sleep. He says, I woke up that next morning after a good night's sleep for the first time in 9 years. He said, I cannot communicate to you how beautiful it was. There are no words. It is the single most wonderful thing ever happened in my life. No food I've ever eaten, no sex I've ever had, nothing. It was as good as getting a good night's sleep after 9 years of bad sleep. Right? So folks, pace yourself for the long game. We need four-quarter players. We need seasoned players. Sleep deprivation has taken years off our life, and it's making us have bad quality life. We're not the spouse we want to be. We're not the parent we want to be. We're not the first responder we want to be. This is something every one of us can do right now. So, folks, the first step in resiliency is motivation, to know your sacrifice for a noble and worthy purpose. Everything builds on that. The second step is motivation turned into action. Identify the things you can do and do them. This is sometimes called an internal locus of control. You say, Dave, what the heck does that mean? Best way to do this. A cop told me one time. He said, I don't get PTSD, I give it. I'm a carrier. Long as we understand that we're all human, long as we understand there may come a time we all might need a hand, that's not a bad attitude to have. I control my destiny. I control my fate. I refuse to be a victim. Folks, there's only one thing in this universe we can control. It's ourselves. Can we all agree on that? There is nothing we can control except ourselves. And so, folks, the past, let it go. Turn it over to higher power. Quit fretting over things that happen. They're done. You can't do anything about it. Let it go. The global level, the national level, let it go. Turn it over to higher power. There's only one thing in the universe we can control. It's ourselves right now. And if we give way to bitterness, if we give way to complacency or denial, that's the one thing in the universe we can control. And we give the world a victory with their own hand. And we will not give them that victory. Identify the things you can do and do them. It starts tonight. Folks, don't touch that snooze alarm. Put that phone where you got to get out of bed to turn it off. Or set your cell phone for 601-234-5678 and get out of bed. Starting tonight, sleep in a truly dark room. Make the room as dark as you can and go online and order some sleep masks and see which one works for you. Folks, do not use alcohol to put yourself to sleep tonight. It is bad quality sleep. And this afternoon, right after lunch, cut off caffeine. And you will begin to get that deep cycle quality sleep. You will see a lot of the pain go away. You'll see a major improvement in your life, in all aspects of your life. The elephant in the living room, sleep-deprived first responders. People making life and death decisions who are sleep-deprived. Is there anything more intentionally negligent? When you think about people dying because the people supposed to save their lives are not taking care of themselves first. You understand? So pace yourself for the long game, folks. Well, we started kind of touchy-feely with the positive self-fulfilling prophecy, and we talked about, motivation. And then we moved to some pretty hard science with the sleep. Now we move up to some really hard science. And this is the stuff I live for, the psychology and physiology of combat. What's happening to our body in this life and death environment? And those of you that have a copy of On Combat, I'd ask you to turn to page 31 of On Combat and follow along. Really the most important book today, the one that everything I'm giving you is coming out of. Go to On Combat, turn to page 31, and follow along. And down at the bottom of page 31, underline, highlight, hormonal or fear-induced heart rate increase. This is the impact of adrenaline on our bodies. Let me show you a photograph. We're going to go back to this later in the day. These are two individuals coming down for the World Trade Center, 9/11. Now, she is experiencing vasodilation. We've all seen that. Vigorous physical exercise and your face is flushed. He is experiencing vasoconstriction. He's what we're talking about. Now, folks, he's taken a blow to that left cheekbone. The other side of the head, there's a pretty bad cut. He's been burned. He's on his second trip down from the World Trade Center. I have never seen such a vivid example of vasoconstriction and vasodilation side by side. Their heart rate could be exactly the same. The impact on their body is exactly the opposite. Now, if you have a dark complexion, it's like what's so obvious, happened to everybody. Have a light complexion, it's so vivid. Don't worry so much about the guy that's red with rage. You watch out for the one that's white with rage. Because as the blood drains from the face, the blood drains from the forebrain, and we tell you as a medical scientific fact, there is no rational thought of that man's head. So we're talking about him. We're talking about a hormonal or fear-induced heart rate increase, right? And this is called vasoconstriction. So underline, highlight that word, the vasoconstriction. The docs tell us it's happening at the pre-capillary stage. Just before the capillaries, there's a mechanical shutdown of the blood flow. The arteries and the body core can be holding up to twice as much blood. What happens to your blood pressure? Whew, skyrockets. Just about any time you see stress-induced increase in blood pressure, it's vasoconstriction doing it. Well, what's that do for us? The outer layer of the body doesn't have any blood in it. Not much at all. You can do a massive trauma and not bleed out. As long as you don't hit an artery, as long as you don't puncture the body core, you won't bleed out in the heat of battle. Does that sound like a survival mechanism to you? So, folks, let's say you're fighting a wolf. If the wolf ends, your family's dog food. You're not fighting for your life. You're fighting for the survival of your family, of your tribe. And you're trying to cave the wolf's head in with a rock. The wolf's jaws can shred your arm, but not get to that artery. His claws will shred your chest and not get to the body core. A sustained vicious battle, he shreds your arm, he shreds your chest, you don't bleed out. Finally, you cave his head in with a rock, you won the battle, you saved your family, then you relax. And then you bleed out and die. The body will always backlash in the opposite direction. The body will backlash in the opposite direction. The wound that didn't bleed in the heat of battle will gush blood afterwards. Today, we slap a tourniquet on the wound. We survive in the battle because of vasoconstriction. We survive after the battle because our friend missed the tourniquet. Yeah? So, folks, I want to show you something here that I try to put out a lot of best practices. We kind of fast-forwarded through the schools and the other stuff there, best practices. But this is my favorite tourniquet. It's a third the size, a third the weight, and a third the cost. I go online to Amazon and buy them by the fistfuls. I give them away. I've got one in every jacket pocket. I got one in my vest, one in my briefcase. But basically, that fast you shut down the arm. Put your teeth, your two hands shut down the leg. Now, the military tourniquets are just fine, but they won't work on small children. They won't work on your canine partner, and this will. It's a third the weight, a third the size. It's intuitive in its use, and it's a great resource we can have. And I encourage everybody, just carry a tourniquet with them all the time. The little SWAT tee, you just tuck it in your purse, in your pocket, in your jacket pocket. At the moment of truth, it's there for you. Remember, that whole business of the backlash in the opposite direction. So what's this vasoconstriction doing for us? Well, survival, but what's the price we pay for it? The muscles ain't getting blood. The muscles don't get blood, they stop working. So initially, you begin to lose your fine motor control. You do not have a lie detector. You have a stress detector when you shake somebody's hand. Their hand is cold and clammy. That's early stage of vasoconstriction. Their handwriting will probably be sloppy. A little while back in Kansas City, I had the honor to speak to 200 law enforcement couples, 400 people. It was spiritually focused. It was in a church. I threw some verses in it. And then afterwards, a pastor got up and had everybody look each other in the eye and renew their vows. And it was powerful. And it was good. And I mean, this is just so powerful. And that pastor was just so calm, so competent, so good. Presenting to cops is kind of an intimidating audience, talking spiritual stuff to people you don't even know. You don't know how many of them are there with you. It's intimidating. I walked up and shook his hand. I said, "Great job, Pastor." His hand was ice cold. Of course there was stress. Who would not feel stressed? You would have never known it until you walked up and shook that guy's hand. All right? Now, as it gets worse and worse, we begin to lose our complex motor control. As it gets worse and worse, we're going to lose your complex motor control. It gets worse and worse. In a catastrophic ground we call condition black. Now, our enemy is condition white. Condition white for sheep. And if you're in condition white and the bad stuff comes down, you bought yourself a deluxe first class one-way ticket to condition black. Do not pass go, do not collect $200, go straight to Panicsville. Every grass eater has two speeds, graze and stampede. Denial and panic. Graze and stampede. It's denial that turns us into sheep. I think when it comes to fire, this is a community who will live their lives in condition yellow. We know it can happen. When it happens, we're ready. Do you understand? Or just live your life in condition yellow. We know bad things can happen. When they happen, we're not stunned. We're not surprised. We know bad things can happen. When it happens, we're not stunned. We're not surprised. We're in condition yellow. And something bad happens, we pop up condition red, and we rock and roll and come back down again. Now look what's happening up here in condition red. Your optimal survival and combat performance level. Complex motor skills, visual reaction time, cognitive direction, all the highest. So those good things? What's the price you pay for those things? Some loss of fine motor control. But we partially compensate for that with training. Let me give you a sports example. Basketball player is out on the court. Basketball player can function in condition red because he's done 100,000 shots in practice. Shot left hand, right hand, moving in, moving out, moving left, moving right. In the game, move, mix that 10,000 shots like in practice. But give him 5 seconds, make a free throw. His approach is completely different. Study basketball players make a free throw. Study, you see a lot of this. The basketball player's like a sniper. He's using his breathing. And we're going to teach the breathing. It's a terribly important tool. And he pulls himself down to condition yellow, regains fine motor control, makes his free throw, pops up in condition red, rocks and rolls. So who on the battlefield must live in condition yellow, must never lose fine motor control? The worse it gets, the calmer they get. Pilots. My helicopter pilot loses fine motor control on a close approach on the hot LZ. We're all having a very bad day. How does a pilot's voice always sound? Turn on the radio. Calm, bored, monotone. The worse it gets, the calmer they get, huh? Houston, we have a problem. Yeah. How about this one, huh? We're going into Hudson. Yeah. How did they do that? Well, they found out the hard way in 10,000 dogfights and 50,000 aviation emergencies. If you can't control your voice, you can't control your hands. If your pilot emerges, you're going to die. If you hear stress in their voice, you're hearing vasoconstriction. If they can't control their voice, you can't control their hands. If your pilot emerges, you're going to die. You ever been in a cockpit and you key the mic, you got the headphones on, you hear your own voice. It's a biofeedback loop. Pilots hear their own voice, a biofeedback loop. And so our pilots need to live in condition yellow. 10,000 dogfights and 50,000 aviation emergencies. We found out the hard way. If you can't control your voice, you can't control your hands. And your pilot emergency, you're probably going to die. How should a cop's voice sound coming on the radio during high-speed pursuit? Like a pilot. We have a lawful, legitimate, necessary high-speed movement. You want to decide whether or not to let them do it? Step one, listen to the voice coming on the radio. A fighter pilot, a Dutch pilot comes on the radio, the high-speed movement, good to go. Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck comes over the radio. You probably need to pull them off the pursuit. Bomb techs, I train EOD, bomb tech worldwide. My bomb tech loses fine motor control. Well, he's defusing a bomb, he's having a day. And folks, docs. I just did a podcast for all of the New York City ER docs. And I trained my pararescue and I trained my spec ops docs. If my doc loses fine motor control, while my life has slipped into his hands, I'm having a bad day, yes? And snipers and leaders. Can we all agree military and law enforcement leaders got to remain calm in the heat of battle? When things are going to hell and people are dying, our leaders have got to remain calm. Can we all agree on that? That is why we do not respect leaders who blow their cool. We're all human. We all lose it sometimes. When we do, we know we made a mistake. Try to do a better job the next time. As we get older, most of us get a little better at that. That's why most of us make better grandparents than we did parents. How many of y'all got kids? How many of y'all ever looked at your parents with your kids and said, are you the same ones that raised me? No, they're not. No, they're not. They're 20 years older, more mature. They're not the same person that raised you. It's called maturity. We want to get it as fast as we can. No, I got to shout and kick to get their attention. No. We are what we practice to do. And if we practice having temper tantrums, when things go to hell, that's what we're going to do. And we're all human, but if the day-to-day piss and things make us lose it, when things go to hell, it's going to be very hard to maintain that calm. And the next step in resiliency is to nurture an environment of quiet professionals. The laconic Spartan, the stoic Roman, the inscrutable samurai, the stiff upper lip Brit, and today we talk about the quiet professional. Those are all different ways of saying the same thing. Individuals who are known for their self-control. And we're all human. But as we get older, we try to get better and better at that. And you watch a video of a traffic stop gone bad. That cop loses his temper and suddenly you've got an irrational, angry human being making life and death decisions. If that individual has abusive leadership that's screaming in their face, how do you expect them to be any different? We've all had some leader that got in our face and screamed at us and we despised them. Do not be that person. Nobody respects our temper tantrum. They respect our calm. And we've got to nurture that environment of quiet professionals. Believe in who you are. Believe in what you do. We're all human. We all fall short of the mark, but the goal is to set a goal and strive towards it. And we can't even begin to strive towards it if we don't even know it's there. And if we think this pathological behavior of having temper tantrums and screaming at people is appropriate, then we're on the wrong path. Now, in the military, in basic training, the drill sergeant gets you in your face and screams at you. It's a form of stress inoculation used in one very specific situation. Now, you think that drill sergeant gets to a normal unit, he's out of control. Nah, he's the last one to do that because he knows this is a game that we played in one very specific circumstance. It is completely inappropriate in any other circumstance. And the next step in resiliency is to nurture that environment of quiet professionals and live your life in condition yellow.